Proverbs is full of a whole bunch of different things. As we've already kind of covered, this is our 5th lesson in the book of Proverbs, and we've already learned a ton. And guess what else it's full of? Boys, who wants to guess what else Proverbs is full of? What? Yes, it's full of wisdom in the form of what? Yes, which are made of? Keep going. Very good. Words. Proverbs is full of words. So we're going to talk about words tonight. Words for wisdom. Words are incredibly important. And in fact, the Proverbs themselves are full of proverbs about words, about what we say and what we speak. And children, this is actually quite important for you, because if you can learn how to use words correctly and wisely, you will have a better life. You will have better outcomes. Anzo, what is it you're looking for, bud? Okay, good. You're good to go now? Okay, good. Nothing more distracting for a father than watching his kids run around in the church trying to find stuff. Yeah, pep talk works for about 10 seconds, maybe 15 if you're lucky, and then after that it's down to learned behaviors, which I'm trying to teach. Train up a child. Okay, Anzo, have a seat. Thank you. Be a good student. So we're going to talk about a few things here today about words, but first of all, we're going to start off with the impact of words. A word's impact. I'm going to go to Proverbs 18:21, and it says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love its use will eat its fruit." Nothing like starting that off when I want to say that words have an impact, right? You quote a verse that says, life and death are in the power of the tongue. And that word tongue, of course, it's using it as a metaphor for words, what we say. It's powerful. Life and death. Each one of you in here that can speak, you're equipped with a deadly weapon for which you need no license. You're also equipped with really one of the most creative things that God has given mankind, and really has patterned us after himself. What we say, our words are incredibly powerful. And a wise person realizes and knows the power of their words and what they say. Proverbs teaches us that those who are wise will benefit from the use of words. Will benefit from the use of words. Those who love its use, the use of the tongue, the use of words, will eat its fruit. Now, in the Proverbs, the words are described as having two very distinct characteristics. And those characteristics are, there's a few of them, two of them, and the first one is that words pierce. Words pierce. You've probably heard the phrase, right? Sticks and stones. Words will never hurt me. This is so wrong. Because the words that we say go beyond mere skin and bones and flesh. Right? There are no tweezers yet invented that can take an offense out of the skin the way you can remove a sliver. I had a sliver here in my finger here during men's retreat, and both of these fingers, they swelled up so much that they couldn't even touch each other at the tip anymore. And finally, I got home, and my wife had tweezers. I had nothing there. And I got that foreign object out. I still don't know what it was. But it was irritating, and it caused me to scratch, and it kind of, made me hurt when I picked up things that were heavy. But it's now gone. If only we had a tweezer like that to go and take out those careless words and those things that were said to us as children, or that thing that your friend said or your teacher said or whatever. Right. But they don't exist. Yeah. Words pierce very, very deeply. And they hurt us in a much more way than just simply physical. Though, to be honest, a word carelessly spoken that impacts someone deeply eventually will be seen on the outside. We know what stress and anxiety and all that kind of stuff looks like when it comes out of the human body, and it's not a wonderful thing by any stretch. And really, we shouldn't be amazed at the impact of words, right? God said, "Let there be." He said. He spoke. Let there be. He took what was in his mind and he made that into words, which then turned into action. And he started this whole thing just simply by uttering some words. And in a like manner, human beings can say things and things happen outside of them and in other people. And they can be used for their detriment or for their benefit. Or words can hurt or help. They can hurt or they can help. And that's your fill in the blank. Words can hurt or words can help. The first fill in the blank was benefit. Those who are wise will benefit from the use of words. Okay, Proverbs 12 and 18 here, that says, speaking recklessly is like the thrusts of a sword, but the words of the wise bring healing. It's like bludgeoning or Band-Aids, to keep the whole alliteration thing going, right? Like the thrusts of a sword, speaking recklessly. How many here have spoken recklessly before? Said something and then thought afterwards, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, speaking restless, like the thrusts of a sword. And the problem is even if you're sorry that you swung a sword recklessly, it doesn't put the ear back on. It doesn't put the leg back on. It doesn't fix what you've cut. It's done. It's done. You don't get to take it back. No matter how much you want to say, I'm sorry. It's out there. It's done. A reckless word when thrown out without wisdom results in a wounded spirit. Proverbs 18 and 14 says, a person's spirit sustains him through sickness, but who can bear a crushed spirit? So what is that saying? It says like your spirit, your desire to live or to be positive or whatever can get you through sickness or a hard time or a dark time in life. People who have gone through hard things and they're still looking and they still have that positivity and they're going to make it. Yeah. A good spirit will get you through that, but a crushed spirit, who can bear it? Never mind if you're sick or you have anything else going on in life. If your spirit is crushed, who can live in that space? It's hard. And a crushed spirit comes from a reckless word thrown out like an untrained swordsman that lobs off a leg or lobs off something that wasn't supposed to happen. So the Proverbs, they're very intense and very descriptive around the power of words, which of course is amazing because it of course is made of words. It's made of sayings. Sayings that get idea across and get across a thirst for the wisdom of God. Of course, at the same time, we can bring healing with the words that we speak, or we can be healed by words that we hear from others. Proverbs 12 and 25, anxiety in a person's heart weighs him down, but an encouraging word brings him joy. So it's connecting here anxiety with words. Anxiety in a person's heart weighs him down, but an encouraging word brings him joy. That's not just an encouraging word to an anxious person. This is equating the impact that words have. They can bring us anxiety and uncertainty and unknowing, but at the same time, words can bring us joy and lift us up and give us hope, right, for the future and hope for what God would have. Another great one about words is that words, gossip is made of words. Talking about other people and negative gossip and talking. Proverbs 18 and 8, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels, and they have gone down into the person's innermost being. So this is an interesting thing about words is that they can sometimes be tasty. Who doesn't like a bit of juicy gossip, right? And it says here that they're like choice morsels, right? But it's saying this satirically, not just in the sense of they're to be sought out, but they're kind of what human beings do seek out. If you go and look at any newspaper stand, you'll see they're full of gossip. You got all kinds. You got teen gossip. You got child's gossip. You got single mother gossip. You got married person's gossip. It's all gossip. It's all talking about other people. Exactly. I shouldn't say this, but no, you shouldn't, and I shouldn't hear it, and I don't want to hear it. But they go down into the person's innermost being because words are piercing. They go deep. There's no armor you can set up that is going to keep you from the strike and the piercing of a word spoken poorly. Here's another one. Proverbs 29:5. One who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his steps. You know what's flattery? It's going to someone and telling them like, oh, you're so good. You're so great. You're the best at this thing. We're just blessed to have you. All this kind of stuff that's unnecessary, unneeded, unheeded, unuseful, probably untrue. And when we flatter people, we, as it says here, spread a net for their steps. We're going to cause them to stumble because then they will think of themselves more highly than they ought, which of course leads them to the place of pride and to the ultimate fall that becomes from that. Sorry? Exactly. It's just inflating that ego, and then all of a sudden, someone's going to come on and say, you're actually not that great. And what happens there? And like a little balloon stretched off on the ground, it's now useless. So flattery, we have to be careful of. Like with our kids, I remember being taught this. Be careful not to flatter your kids. Don't praise them for good job. You did such a great job. That's amazing. Instead, praise the effort that they put into it. You worked hard on that. You changed what you did. You corrected some mistakes that you thought you made. You took your time on that. You were purposeful about that. And those are good things that you did, not just you did a great job. And it creates somebody who values doing and effort and hard stuff and discipline rather than just thinking that they're God's gift to humanity. So we have to be careful with flattery. Even when it's meant positively, it can bring out negative impacts on people. Because it's a word carelessly spoken. It's flattery. We think it's good, but it's carelessly spoken. And it spreads a net for them. And what else? The things that we believe and the convictions that we hold, they are formed in words. The things that we believe, the faith you have, the convictions you have, those are formed and expressed in words. Proverbs 11:9 says, with his speech, the godless person destroys his neighbor, but by knowledge, the righteous person will be delivered, ultimately delivered. Salvation, etc., comes throughout words. I was reminded in reading this of Romans 10:7. So faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Words are important. They mean everything. And sometimes they mean nothing. Everything we talk about, faith, conviction, beliefs, all these deeply held things have a massive impact on us and on others. These words are deep. They go deep. They pierce deeply. And they make changes to us inside that are very deep, that cannot be made in any other way. Words. They cut deep, for better or for worse. Just like when a surgeon is operating on somebody. That scalpel in a skilled person's hand can do amazing things. In my hand, they will bring fear and trepidation and the use of a lot of Band-Aids, if not a coffin. Right? The scalpel in the hands of a doctor is the same as words in the hand of a wise person. And they ought to bring forth healing and not death. Another amazing thing about words, another characteristic that they have, is that words propagate. Words move. Words spread. You can't just sort of say something and bottle it up and say, this is not going to go anywhere. It's like the classic, shh, don't tell anybody, but I got this juicy gossip. Yeah, it's not going to stay there. It's going to come out somewhere. In fact, there's a huge proportion of crimes that are solved simply because the person who committed them bragged about them to somebody else and said, don't tell anybody, but I stole this stuff, and that's how it's here. Well, then, ultimately, they get found out. But, human beings, we're not very good at keeping these things to ourselves. We got to share with someone so somebody else will know how, I don't know, good we are or whatever, or bad we are. People are weird. They like to brag, and we like to talk. And as a child, good luck trying to get away with anything, right? You do something, and you tell your brothers, don't say anything about it. Well, good luck. It's going to come out. Words propagate. They spread. Words transfer ideas and feelings from one mind or heart to another. They propagate. They spread. It's really their whole purpose. It's kind of weird and daft me trying to explain to you that words spread, but they do. And that means that the characteristic of words that they spread means something. It means something for the gospel. We preach the gospel, and the gospel spreads. And we can spread gossip and bring people down and destroy whole things and whole areas just with words. Now, you've probably heard of memes before. Can you put my meme up there? Oh, that's way too small. Sorry. Now, what this, you should be using memes, he said, but that's none of my business. So, you probably have seen these sorts of things before, these memes. Like, maybe not that one, but other ones. Pictures and stuff with text to top them, and they have different things. The whole point of these memes is to spread ideas and to get across cultural ideas. Many people, of course, just think of them as funny pictures or jokes, which in some ways they are. But really, the idea with these things is that they are a cultural parallel to genes, actual genes, like not pairs of genes, but like the genes that make you up, that make you who you are. Your 23 chromosomes and all the genes in there that say that you have blue eyes or brown eyes or one of each. Memes are kind of the same idea. The idea is to spread some idea across cultures. And they get across ideas, and they're usually have some bit of truth in them. They're somehow, substantive. They've got something to them, but they're trying to get across kind of a particular idea. And as these things kind of move around from person to person, or from Facebook page to Facebook page, or Twitter account to whatever, they change, they morph, they adjust a little bit, and they grow and kind of change to society as an idea, or to the culture of the people who were there. And the impact is that they start to get people kind of thinking the same way about some subject. Because they're so small and so packaged up well, and because they kind of get across some sort of a underlying truth, but some other narrative on top of it, it's hard to block these things with the gate of critical thinking. It's hard to stop and look at one of these pictures that's shared and understand and think, is this really all truth? Are they telling me the whole story here? Is this deep enough, or is it just a little bit? And what we find is that people who consume just this kind of media end up thinking that they're a lot more informed about what's going on in the world than if they had read a book, for example. And so these memes are a great way to talk about how words propagate, how they spread, how these ideas get around, and how by spreading those ideas, it spreads ways of thinking among a populace. Today, every single political what do you call those things when you vote? An election? Yeah, elections and the people who are running for whatever, they all have groups of people now who just make these things and spread them on Twitter and or other things just to try and get ideas across to voters who can't be bothered to sit down and understand what it is they're going to be voting about. Right. They are incredibly powerful and have been really since like the mid-2000s. We need to be careful with these things. They're funny. They are. That one that was up there is kind of like this whole idea of trying to sort of nonchalantly say something to somebody and say, well, you really should be driving a Ford, but that's none of my business. That kind of an idea, right? They're funny and they're pithy and they're what have you, but they can skip past a lot of critical thinking. And we can miss these things. We need to be careful with them because they're not often wise words. That's what I'm trying to get out there and put across. We need to be careful. I'll move on here. Proverbs 16 and 27. A wicked scoundrel digs up evil, and his slander is like a scorching fire. I love this. How many of you have seen a grass fire before or have lit one? One little thing, you light one spot. I remember doing this at the church in Nanaimo when I was, I was young. We still lived in Sydney. And we had a grass fire there to clear and you just started it in one spot and it just goes out. And you think of that, a wicked scoundrel digs up evil. His slander, what's slander, right? That's talking negatively about somebody else. It spreads like a scorching fire, like a grass fire. It just moves. And have you ever tried to put one out before? It's hard to put out a grass fire. It's hard to put out any fire. But a fire that's spreading amongst fuel is difficult. Right. And you don't ever get that grass back. Like, not right away. You're waiting a while. You can't fix and reverse the damage of a fire. It's done. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. But from the standpoint of like accidentally setting something, that's different because it's purposeful. And so you could almost say that that's like a good, purposeful word that spreads and does good because it's getting the outcome that you want. But if you accidentally say a word or you say a foolish word, it's kind of like someone who's driving down the road and flicks a cigarette carelessly out the window and it catches, and now it's burning through the farmer's fence and through their field and causing damage that wasn't intended, but it was foolish. And so the Proverbs here connect that sort of thing to the words of a wicked scoundrel, someone who's going around and looking for all the bad in a situation and then is trying to slander people and talk about people. Yeah. Absolutely. Many, many people, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's controlled and it's purposeful, yeah. But a careless thing is not. Like you can go back, the person driving down the road can go and grab that cigarette that they flicked out and they can put that out, but the damage is done. Right. And they're probably not going to be able to put the fire out themselves. And maybe it takes out a field, maybe it takes out more, maybe it takes out hectares of land and destroys things that they can never rebuild. Little spark. So I think the equation of a word to a fire is very fitting. Words sometimes, though, these are interesting, words sometimes don't even need to be spoken. You think of the phrase, what you do speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying. Right. Because people pick up on the way you act and the way you, and here's a great, I can't do it as much justice as the Proverbs here. Proverbs 6, 12, and 14. That says, a worthless and wicked person walks around saying perverse things. He winks with his eyes. He signals with his feet. He points with his fingers. He plots evil with perverse thoughts in his heart, and he spreads contention at all times. All these negative impacts, all these words, none of them being uttered. All body language, exactly. How much of communication is body language? I think it's something like 70% or something. Like how much people, in the 80s, it's high. Which is what mediators watch. Yeah, absolutely. And so he winks with his eyes, right? Like, right? Points with his fingers, you know? The pointing with their feet, like, this is the direction I'm going. He plots perverse evil and spreads contention. It's amazing. I mean, how many of you have walked into a home and not heard a thing? You sit down at the dinner table and you know something's wrong, right? You just sit down and you're like, right. Wisdom is going to be required at this dinner table. I'm going to carefully eat my peas. I'm going to try and create some. We're going to see where something's up here. There's tension, right? Or if you're a husband, you're thinking back in your mind, what did I do? What did I miss? What did I forget? Is it the anniversary? Is it a birthday? Did I take the garbage out? Like, whatever. And I'm sure, yeah. I'm saying that stereotypically, but I'm sure wives will think the same thing if their husband's there, sitting there and just being all grumpy or whatever. So at the same time, a wise person uses the spreading power of words to do good and to lift people up. Proverbs 12 and 14, a person will be satisfied with good from the fruit of his words. The fruit of his words, meaning you say something, it does something, it grows, it creates fruit, and then you're satisfied with them. Your relationship with somebody else is a whole lot better when you're speaking good words into their life. And you will benefit from peace and joy and tranquility in your relationship with them because of that. And the same is true in your workplace. The same is true in your school. If you speak well of people, it comes back to you. It has a way of coming back. The work of his, I like this again, this verse finishes, and the work of his hands will be rendered to him. It again is a great proverb that connects the words we say with the things that we do. What we do and what we say, and when those things are in congruency, and when they are positive, and when they build people up, they create fruit that we benefit from, even if that's not our intention. But we will benefit from it. Proverbs 10:11, the speech of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the speech of the wicked conceals violence. Proverbs 15:4, speech that heals is like a life-giving tree, but a perverse speech breaks the spirit. These two verses are really powerful because, again, we're talking about the spreading power of words, but we're now going beyond just the impact of someone's life and maybe their mental health or their spirit or their emotions, but now we're talking about eternity. Did you catch that? Speech of the righteous is a fountain of life. The speech that heals is like a life-giving tree. We're now talking about eternity. There's a reason why the gospel spreads through words. And when spread correctly, speech that heals others is like a life-giving tree. If you're going somewhere and spreading the gospel and you're not in those words healing other people, you're not spreading the gospel, or people are not hearing it. But if in your conversation there's healing going on in the life of an individual, they're growing, and that the fruits of joy are coming out, and they're being blessed by your conversation with them, you may be winning them to Christ. If not, you're not. Healing. And where do they come from, right? Out of you shall flow rivers of living water. Yes. 100%. And those are our words and our actions. Our words and our actions. Those are the things through which the light shines, or through which the water flows, which brings people to salvation. So words have an eternal impact. So both of these verses here show us this. In your fill in the blanks there, that words are not merely temporal or finite. Like the words of God at the beginning, they can lift someone up into eternity. Just as God spoke into existence the universe, so can we, through our words, elevate people to a place of relationship with God. Now, even though words, I'm equating words and actions here, but words do not replace actions. Okay, some of you will agree with this right away. Proverbs 14:23, in all hard work there is profit, but merely talking about it brings only poverty. Right? Little less talking, a little bit more action around here, right? You guys have probably all heard that. It's a good proverb, right? But you need both. You can't just have action without talking. Otherwise, there's no plan and nothing can get done. And you can't just have talking, obviously, because no one's going to do anything, right? You have to have both. Words don't replace action, but they're there with it. Right. So, like the verse says, you speak to me with your lips, right? But your heart is far from me. Those actions, they're gone. What's coming out here has nothing to do with what's going on in here. That's a lack of truth, right? Then that's kind of who we are as human beings. Benefits only realized when you have both the talking and the doing. When you have the talking about it and the doing it, you have benefit. If you miss one of those, there's no profit. So words don't replace action, and they also don't alter fact. No matter what we say and how much we want to spin things, you cannot put forward alternative facts. They don't exist. There is no such thing. That word in and of itself was created to help people to believe a lie, to try and make it palatable. But those things don't exist. Words don't alter facts. There's no amount of talking that we can do to change the idea that 1 + 1 is equal to 2. It just is. And no one can explain that away. And if they do, they're stepping out of the bounds of truth and now going into fiction. Proverbs 26:23-28. Like a coating of glaze over earthenware, or like over pottery, are fervent lips with an evil heart. The one who hates others disguises it with his lips, but he stores up deceit within him. When he speaks graciously, don't believe him, for there are 7 abominations within him. That just means that there is a lot of evil. Anytime you see 7, typically it's talking about a lot. It's a word, it's a phrase for that, or an idiom for that. Though his hatred may be concealed by deceit, his evil will be uncovered in the assembly. The one who digs a pit will fall into it. The one who rolls a stone, it will come back onto him. A lying tongue hates those crushed by it, and a flattering mouth works ruin. This is talking about the coating of fallacy and falseness that people put sometimes on themselves, on ideas, on other things to try and make them more palatable. But deep inside, it's just full of deceit. The glaze over the earthenware. It's glazed because the earthenware is malformed. Right. It's not made well. It hasn't been made by the hands of the great potter. It's been made by somebody else, and it's been coated with a beautiful glaze that hides all of the imperfection. That is the lies that hide all the imperfection inherent in the deceit of somebody. I think the Proverbs just does a great job of giving us this word picture. It's just fantastic. And so you meet these people, and sometimes you'll pick up on the falseness, right? Sometimes you don't right away. But as soon as you start to hear flattery, Let that be your spiritual hairs on the back of your neck. When flattery comes out of nowhere, stop and take heed. What is this person's intention? Why are they telling me this? And what net is being laid as a snare for my feet by hearing this flattery? And then refuse to hear it. One who digs a pit will fall into it, and one who rolls a stone, it'll come back on him. What's this saying? You can start off in that false area. You can start propagating your alternative facts about things. You can start slandering and setting out lies, whatever, but it's going to come back and bite you. You will end up standing in the midst of the fire that was started by your words. So words, no matter what they are, they cannot alter facts. Words alone cannot bring profit. You have to have action. But let's talk a few minutes in closing here about good words. What are good words? How do we know that we are speaking good words or that we are hearing or receiving or consuming good words? First of all, you don't need to have a lot of words to make a positive impact on things or on people. You don't need a lot of words. I said that a little bit out of order here. Next piece about words. Good words are honest. Good words are honest. That doesn't necessarily mean truth. And maybe I shouldn't dig into that too deeply, but good words are honest. Let's read the proverb here. Proverbs always speak better than I can. I should talk about the fewer words idea. Proverbs 16:13. The delight of a king is righteous counsel, and he will love the one who speaks uprightly. Uprightly can also be translated straightforwardly, or it really means honestly. Speaks honestly. Another one, Proverbs 24:26, like a kiss on the lips is the one who gives an honest answer. You know, when you're looking for an honest answer, you should be able to look to the one with whom you have the most intimate relationship in life, which is typically your spouse. And so it uses that phrase, like a kiss on the lips is the one who gives an honest answer. Because an honest answer, no matter what it is about, is going to improve your life. Right. Whether it's you needing to make a change or you getting feedback that's saying what you're doing or what's happened or whatever it is good and is right. You're going to somehow be a better person on the other side of hearing honesty. You're going to be a better person than you would be if you heard flattery, which is like a net. It can be constructive criticism. The great thing about these words is that it doesn't actually talk about the content of the word. It could be criticism, but it could be affirmation. Right? It could be any of those things. But when they're said honestly, when it's real, and when it's said honestly, it has a positive impact on any situation.
I think the word, that key word you said right there was feedback. Because in business, they do go to different teams and
they ask for feedback, yeah. And if you get feedback from a group and it's not honest, it's not a kiss on the lips, it's a punch in the face. Because it's going to mess up your business. You're not going to have the outcomes that you expect. If all of your customers always told you, oh yeah, you're great, you're wonderful, everything's fantastic, everything's good, but secretly they're like, seriously? Quality's really gone down. But I don't want to hurt his feelings. You're going to keep doing the same thing and having poor quality, and ultimately, you will not gain more customers, and you'll lose what you have. But if instead they say, listen, we've been with you for 5 years, and your work has always been fantastic. Over the last 6 months, we've noticed the following deficiencies. Right. We think, we're not sure if it's our needs that have changed or if it's, what you've been doing that's changed, but this is the gap, and how do we close that? Yeah. Wow, what amazing feedback. Right. All of a sudden, they're alerting you to a need that they have that you weren't aware of, or they're snapping you out of your complacency that might lead you, down a road of losing everything you have. Like, it's good. Right. You can do something with it. Exactly. You can do nothing with flattery, and you can do nothing with lies. They're going to have a negative impact. Good words are also few and chosen with discretion. Proverbs 17:28, even a fool who remains silent is considered wise, and the one who holds his tongue is deemed discerning. Why do we think that as human beings? Why do we automatically equate silence with some wisdom? Well, just because innately we know, after talking to a whole bunch of different people, those who are very quick to speak, not always going to have the most to say, or the most impact, or going to be the most believable. I remember, I was probably, 20, I think I was maybe 23, when I sat down in the office of a general manager of this massive Canadian company. And this is the feedback he gave me. He said, he said things like, you're intelligent, you understand the situations, you think these things through well. You need to be careful with how much you say and where you put your opinion, because the more you do it, the less valued it's going to be. So you have good opinions and thoughts, but you share it too often. This is what he said. And people don't value what you're saying because of that. Those were amazing words. That was honesty. And I took it to heart. I can't tell you I've practiced it all the time, but I'm getting better. And maybe in my old age, eventually I'll be at the spot where, I don't think anyone's going to benefit by me saying what I think about that situation. Even a fool who remains silent is considered wise. Proverbs 10:19, when words abound, transgression is inevitable. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? When words abound. I think it's just because words, these are talking about words from human beings, and we are just amateurs at this thing called life. And the more of us in a place talking, the more chance there is of something going severely wrong. Transgression is inevitable, but the one who restrains his words is wise, holds back, says them when needed, talks about them when required. There was one time we were driving home from Grammy and Paws, and the three boys are sitting in the back. They are all talking, all three at the same time. And I said, wait, guys, hold on. All three of you are talking back there, right? Yeah. But I'm just trying to say, wait, all three are talking. Who's listening? It's quiet. I'm like, so if no one's listening, what's the point of talking? No one's hearing what you're saying. And it's not doing anything. I've got a headache, though, because all three of you are talking back there, and your volume's getting louder because no one can hear. And you know what? The amount of business meetings I've been in that sound just like that, no one can get a word in edgewise, right? Everyone's all talking at the same time. But the one who restrains his words is... But you know what happens in those meetings? Everyone's like, hang on a second here. We haven't heard from Jen yet. Jen, what's your opinion on this? And now all of a sudden, someone has the floor because they've been restraining their words. And now their opinion is invited, and people get to hear and listen. Okay, and finally, what else is a marker of good words? We have they're honest, they're few, and finally, they're calm. Proverbs 17:27, the truly wise person restrains his words, and the one who stays calm is discerning. Isn't that the truth? I can put both my hands up and say, I have said and done things out of anger that I wish I could take back. And those things constantly serve as a reminder to me in my memory that I am not wise, that I am unwise, that I am trying to attain to wisdom. But I'm an amateur at this thing called life. And I've been a fool, and I have a lot to learn because of things said and done in anger, in anxiety, in any sort of intense emotion, in passion. Things you say, they might not even be mean, but their words afterwards, you think, maybe that was a bit overboard. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I shared too much. Maybe I spread something that I shouldn't have spread. I shouldn't have said that. I can't count the amount of times I've gone to bed at night saying that to myself. I shouldn't have said that. There's an acronym, WAIT. I can't remember who taught me this acronym, but it comes to my mind a lot, usually when I'm talking too much. WAIT. And it stands for, why am I talking? Wait. Why am I talking? And I even when I'm out with friends, even a close friend, and we're out and we're walking, we're hiking or whatever, and I find myself babbling on, and I'm, wait a second. Take a breath. Why am I talking? I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand. I want to glean from this, from my friend, this person, whatever. Why am I talking? I'm not benefiting myself when I'm talking. The one who stays calm is discerning. A truly wise person restrains his word. It's a soft word and response that has the impact of turning away anger. It's a soft answer that turns away wrath. Good words are. Not good words are. Words. Good words come from. Where do they come from? Good words come from what we learn. What we learn and what we consume form what we speak, what we say. When I mean learn, I mean like what we read, what we study, what we watch, what we listen to, what we consume. All of consuming is learning. Those things form what we say and what comes out of our mouth. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. So if we're learning and feeding from God, man does not live by bread alone. You know, it's talking about what you consume, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. That's listening, that's revelation, that's understanding, that's learning. And so we can lean on him for this learning. You know, pick up your Bible, pick up scripture, pray, pay attention to God. All of those things are learning and things we can consume that are going to make us more wise. And those things are going to make our speech more wise. Where do good words come from? They come from what you learn. Words come from what you learn and what you consume. The heart of the righteous considers how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things. You can just think of like a jug. Someone said something the other day. It's like, you know, do you ever think about what you speak, or do you just open your mouth and let stuff fall out? Right? I just think of like a bucket, and someone's like dumping a bucket of refuse out into a bin, and that's what comes to my mind, right? You just open your mouth and let whatever it wants just fall out of that. You're like, or do you chew with your mouth closed, right? Sorry, this verbiage, like all this imagery is just interesting. You know, it bears out our experiences. What we say, our experiences, our learning, what we study, all that kind of stuff comes out in what we say. And so if good things and good positive things are coming out of your mouth, if it's impacting people well, you're consuming the right stuff. And if you want to change the way you speak, if you want to be more impactful and beneficial to the lives of those around you, try and focus your consuming on those things. Whatsoever things are. Yeah, focus your consuming on those things, and you'll find that what comes out creates benefit to those around you. So that whole consuming thing is not just about protecting your spirit and protecting your soul and protecting yourself from sin, but that whole verse is also about, hey, watch what you eat because it's going to impact those around you. Isaiah 50:4 says, the Lord gave me a skilled tongue. This is Isaiah. To know how to speak timely words to the weary. Morning by morning he rouses my ear to give heed like disciples. I've heard people say stuff like, they don't even need to study, that the Holy Ghost gives them the right words to say at any given time, or gives them the right words to say when they're witnessing or anything like that. I've even heard some preachers boast about preaching without notes, that they don't have to do those things, that they don't have to study, because God just speaks to them when they're on the platform and out comes. Now, that might be true in certain situations. That is not true in general for mankind. Listen to what Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, who wrote some of the most powerful messianic prophecies we have. He said, the Lord gave me a skilled tongue. Yes, but he says, morning by morning, he rouses my ear to listen, to give heed like a disciple. Someone who is discipled in something, someone who is giving all they have to something, someone who is eating the words and spending time with, just like the disciples did with Jesus. Isaiah says that he rouses my ear to give heed like a disciple. That skilled tongue, that skilled speech is coming from somewhere. It's coming from paying attention. And not just, like, if we could say anything, it's not like, God, give me the lips to say the eloquent things. No, God, give me the desire to hear your word. Give me the desire to study and to understand and to become learned, so that when it's time, I will know how to answer every man. Words, what we spend time putting ourselves into and looking at and paying attention to. He rouses my ear. And finally, words come from our character. Again, they come from who we are. Proverbs 4:24, guard your heart with all vigilance, for from it are the sources of life. My mom used to say this to me all the time, guard your heart, guard your heart. And it was typically talking about, a crush or somebody I had been paying attention to or something like that. But this is true in those situations, but also in this. We have to guard our heart, guard what we take in, because from that, that's the sources of our life, and that's what's going to come out. And it's going to be positive and good, or it's going to be terrible and be burning. And in closing, we can stand. I want to close just with this. I'm going to quote Jesus from Matthew 12:34. This is when Jesus was rebuking the Pharisees. They were claiming that Jesus had performed a miracle, and he had done so through the power of Satan. This is what they were claiming. And they were being dishonest in this claim with themselves and with those around them. Honestly, they were posing alternative facts here, because these Pharisees who had studied the Bible would know that Satan has no ability to cast out himself. And so they were saying that these miracles Jesus were doing was by the hand of Satan, which contradicts even their own ideas. And those words, Jesus' response to that was intense. It was offspring of vipers, he calls them. You sons of snakes, how are you able to say anything good since you are evil? He does have a way with words, right? For the mouth speaks from what fills the heart. What he's saying is your heart is full of deceit, and it's coming out your mouth. You know what? In a nice way, what Jesus was saying is, careful, guys, you're leaking. What's on the inside is coming out, and we're hearing it. Now, Jesus can call it like it is, but the people around there, the Pharisees were people they looked up to. They were their leaders. They were their spiritual authority. And they're talking foolishness and lies. Had Jesus not been there, we don't know the impact that this would have had. But we also don't know the people who struggled with their belief in Jesus, but hearing what they heard from the Pharisees afterwards. Even after they're like, I know the Pharisees have, and I've been taught that Jesus is false, but I seen him rise again. Yeah. I seen him after he died on the cross. Who do I believe? Those words had an impact on those people. Thank God that this piece of Matthew was kept for us, so that we could hear him shutting down these liars and saying, but also reminding everyone there, what's in here comes out. So the Proverbs teach us that words are important. What we say is important. And we can learn a lot from what we say. We can learn a lot from what we don't say. We can change what we say by what we take in. And what we say can hurt or it can help. Amen. Lord God, thank you very much.